Norm, we miss you already.
Afternoon, everybody.
Norman?
Hey, what's happening, Norm?
It's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Leftist lies and globalism pushing them back from the saloon to the airwaves. I'm spitting it raw. Constitution's my compass, liberty's law. Big golf's creeping, shadows on the land. Feds with the schemes trying to bind up my hands, but I'm the Sherpa guiding through the storm. Red, white, and blue, yeah, freedom's reborn. They spin their tails, but I see through the haze. Media maggots lost in the maze. I'm calling it out, no fear in my soul. This patriot's fire ain't losing control. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Freedom's calling. Leftist judges twisting, trying to steal our rights, but I'm locked and loaded, got them in my sights. From J6 to the border, they're selling us out. I'm screaming from the mountain, hear my rebel shout. They mock the flag, but I'm holding it high. Stars and stripes forever under God's open sky. No globalist chains gonna cage this land. I'm the Sherpa with the truth in my hand. They push their agenda, but I'm breaking the mold. Their promises empty, their hearts ice cold. Chicago's bleeding, borders torn apart. I'm fighting for the people with the warrior's heart. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. I've walked the line, 41 years, badge on the grind, now I'm on the air. My voice like a blade, cutting through the lies that the traitors made. Hurricanes rage, but we're standing tall. Sheriffs of the Constitution answering the call. From the saloon to the heart of the fray, we're taking back America, no more delay. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Static, hear my voice resound. Conservative Sherpa, freedom's battleground. Berserk, Bobcat, Rose will never kneel. For God and country, this fight is real.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media studios. It is Thursday. It is May 29th, the year of our Lord 2025. This will be my last show for this month. 25 people watching live already in the saloon. Thanks to everyone ever so kindly. Now, I just came back from a trip. I will go into that. But first, I want to start out with this public service announcement about California. And I would ask your kind attention if I could garner it, please.
I love living in California. Some people think the state's gone to hell. They couldn't be more wrong. It's doing better than ever. Welcome to my new house. Just moved in under this little overpass.
Why'd you move in here?
Oh, it was the best option on the market. It's actually part of a drainage line, so it'll be life-threatening if we get a lot of rain.
Whoa, that sounds dangerous.
I'm just kidding. Our state doesn't have any water, so.
And it doesn't have rain.
Yeah, after I lost my house in the fire that the state couldn't put out, I couldn't rebuild because I can't get house insurance in this state. So I thought, well, this is perfect. It's open air on both ends.
Where's your bathroom?
If you just walk out of the tunnel, you'll find a sidewalk up there we all use. It took forever to acquire this property. There were a dozen or so people that overdosed from fentanyl 7 months ago.
It took the state that long for them to clean up their bodies?
No, the state doesn't have that kind of manpower. It took that long for the rats to completely devour their corpses. But it's good to have it all cleaned up now. Honestly, California is better than ever.
Why do you think 3 million people have moved out of California since 2020?
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Maybe the state's gotten too good for them. Oh, and would you mind pulling your mask up over your nose? Okay, thank you. In California, we still care about slowing the spread of disease.
Sure. I just stepped on a needle.
Oh, yeah, they're kind of indigenous around here. Speaking of disease, you probably just got one.
I've heard people speak negatively about California decriminalizing crime.
Well, robbery might not be against the law in California, but using plastic bags is. And I appreciate that. Now, when you're shoplifting, you have to take your own bags. I mean, honestly, every day I look around and say, thank God I live in a state that bans plastic bags and plastic straws so we can keep it clean.
Do you think you'll try to move into an actual house if you can find a job?
Oh, I have a job. I earn $200,000 a year.
And this is the best place you can find to live?
Oh, I'm in the top 1%. I mean, the cost of living isn't cheap and taxes are high, but it's worth it because the governor uses our tax money to make the state better for everyone.
What do they use your tax money for to make it better?
Oh, for one thing, solving the homeless problem. In the past 5 years, California has spent $24 billion to reduce the homeless population.
What have the results been?
Homelessness has gone up by 20%. But when you think about it, does California have a homeless problem?
Excuse me while I interject this very briefly. By the way, fully 1/3 of the entire homeless population of the United States lives in California. Always spell it with a K. So my advice to you is make this your own personal journey. Be on this. Send your homeless to California. It pays.
Yes, you are homeless.
I'm not homeless. California is my home. Actually, California is the home to the most amount of homeless people in America. But when you think about it, because California is their home, they're not really homeless, are they? So it kind of seems like California is the only state where everyone has a home. The weather's great here. I'm just always in it.
What about California's public education?
Oh, it's really good. My kids may not know how to read, but they know their pronouns in 2 languages. They had to learn a second language because that's all they're. I love living.
Okay, enough of that. Anyway, people are saying in chat, and let me go through this over here right now. You too can be in the chat room. This is what the chat room looks like. This is its current iteration. As you can see, it is plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent. Now, where I am in North Idaho, it's still raining, and it's still not 110 degrees here. It was about 68. It's going to be a little bit cooler later this week. So every once in a while, we do stoke the fire up here. So please jump into our sumptuous and palatial chat room. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to talk about, a little bit about, I went to a conference, and this was a Bigfoot conference this past Saturday. And it took, all right. I'm not big on flying. Mrs. BZ and I are not big on flying. So we drove. We rented a car. I'm not going to put all those miles on my car. And Rick Robinson, who is in chat tonight, by the way, let me go back here and let me be cordial. Thanks to Lost Wanderer for being in chat, and Canada Heavy Hall, and Comic Book Artist, and Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, and Rick Robinson, and The Phantom, and Mike Pasqua, and Mike Fitzpatrick, and Jersey Joe. Thanks to everybody for being in the chat room tonight. You know what the chat room looks like. And if you have any comments or criticisms, please write them to commentscriticisms@bz.com. You won't get a response, but it's nice to think that I care enough to make up a fake email address for you to send something to. Anyway, this is what I went to. This was in Colorado, by the way. I drove 2 days, 1,200 miles to get here in Colorado. It was in Broomfield, Colorado. And I drove 1,200 miles back in a separate rental car. That in itself is a story. For the most part, we're okay. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But we went to the Bigfoot Investigative Group Conference. And this is a very unique set of individuals. They are really cool cats. Let me put this up here. This is myself with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who is an anthropologist, doctor of anthropology, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And this is the dude that created BIG, the Bigfoot Investigative Group. This guy is Dan Toth. And Dan Toth, T-O-T-H, is one of the coolest guys that I ever met. The guy is a former member of SEAL Team 3. The other two people that help him on the Bigfoot Investigative Group, they are also former members of SEAL Team 3. Everybody that's in that group was either a member of the SEALs or law enforcement, or they were SEALs and then went into law enforcement. This is a great set of individuals. So there it was they've got photographs of the conference in 2025 up already. That's nice to see. And this is what they do. Anyway, you can go to the site. It's BigfootInvestigativeGroup.com. A bunch of really great guys. And then while I was there driving back, we also stopped at Quebec 1, the Minuteman Missile National Historic Site. And I had to get a photograph of, the chair. And for those who wonder what the chair is, this is the chair. There's another one behind me, but this and another airman were stationed here 60 feet down in a Minuteman missile silo site. It was well known that if, for whatever reason, Russia decided to drop a nuke on this facility, that 60 feet down wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. They'd be gone. They would be atomized. They would be in the air. Now, obviously, this makes sense when you think about it. When they get the approval for a launch, the missiles are nowhere near there. They're 20 to 25 miles away. No, this was all, of course, well thought through, etc. If you ever get the ability to stop at the Quebec 1, or as they say, Quebec, Minuteman Missile Historic Site, it's a great place to be, and it's a great thing to do and to see. Also, Wikipedia has a slightly different photo, and you can see, you can see it in this photograph. These two chairs slide this way. Let's see if I can embiggen that. No, I can't. Anyway, this slides sideways. That chair facing away faces another console. These two people must coordinate the keys to launch together, or there's going to be hell to pay in Paltor pay. It was a great time in the Bigfoot at the Bigfoot conference with this gentleman, a very, very gracious guy, Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And this guy, Dan Toth, I talked to him quite a bit, and I decided I got to get this guy in the show. This guy is such a kick. He is such an amazing, cool cat that he would make a wonderful interview. And he just had story, of course, there are certain things that he can't talk about, obviously, since he was a SEAL. But just to talk about his life leading up to what he did and thereafter, God, I got to get that guy on the show. I will try to see if I can get Dr. Jeff Meldrum on the show. At first, essentially, he said he was going to be very, very busy. The guy is a consultant for everything, everywhere. And he's got 2 more years at Idaho State, where he is, in fact, a doctor of anthropology and something else that evades my brainulus at this point. But initially, he said, no, I'm sorry. I'm really, really busy. And then he gave me his private email and said, well, okay. You can go ahead and contact me, and I can't promise how long it's going to be. So as far as I'm concerned, that's hope. That's big hope. Let's go over to comments if we can. And Cheetah says, been working out in the 95-degree heat all day in the past 2 weeks. Well, let's see. When I went to Colorado and when I went there and came back, it was probably in the 50s and there was a lot of rain. Jersey Joe has nothing to do with living in Florida. Only global warming. Yes. First ding of the night. Yes, Jersey Joe. Winner. It's all about global warming. And Canada Heavy Hall, who is actually in Canada. It stormed so hard where I live, they had to shut down the watch party for the Oilers game tonight. Oh my, that's pretty serious. Was there the Ames team? I'm not sure what that means. Actually, first hit on Google search is their LinkedIn page. Oh, okay, cool. Jesus. Canada Heavy Hole says it's pronounced Quebec. BZ, thank you. Mission ready men in the room. And Dan is a trip. Now, comic artist is Rich, and I'm really curious how it is that you happen to know Dan, because he is a trip all day long. The guy has 2 speeds on and off. And of course, Big E in the room, Phantom acknowledging Big E. And wait, there are people who watch the Oilers. Now, it's not the Houston Oilers, because that really dates me. It's thinking it's the Edmonton Oilers or something like that. That'd be my guess. Shows you how much I know about stuff. Let me see if I can go to, and now, you know what? A new story just came out. By the way, let me tell you how the show is going to go tonight. First, I've got some news. We're going to be going to news here in just a bit. And then I've got a ton of happy stories. That's always great. We're going to talk about the shadow government tonight that occurred under Joe Vegetable. And we're going to talk about Democrats. And if we have some time, there's some other stuff that went in, and Jeremy Hansen confirmed, yes, Edmonton Oilers. You see, even though I don't live in Canada and I don't know shit about hockey, I still, for whatever crazy reason, I still have Edmonton Oilers. I don't know where I even got that. This is a story that came out just today, May 29th. New evidence could blow open the Oklahoma City bombing case. Now, as I have said for decades, because I was a cop for 41 years, and when I was out on the street, and I was also conducting investigations as a detective, any good cop is going to say something very similar to, I don't care where this goes. I'm going to go where the evidence takes me. Sadly, that's not what the FBI did or does I'm of two minds about the FBI, and I am of two minds about the DOJ, but certainly under the Joe Vegetable regime, the Otto Penn regime, that is certainly not how the FBI and the DOJ worked. First, they created a narrative and then crushed all the facts together to make sure that those facts, air quote, fit whatever narrative it was that they were pushing at the time. The Justice Department must act, release the tapes, let the American people decide for themselves what really happened there in the Oklahoma City bombing. So, I was not aware of this. Evidently, for a long time, the FBI denied that key evidence existed in the Oklahoma City bombing, but court documents, leaked files, and eyewitness accounts suggest a darker truth buried beneath the official story. President Clinton visited a church in Oklahoma City on April 19th to mark the 30th anniversary of the 1995 bombing that resulted in the deaths of 168 people there. In his remarks, Clinton said, "We owe it to the victims to do better in honor of their sacrifice." But just like 3 decades ago, commemorating the bombing still requires airbrushing a mountain of contradictory evidence. This story indicates, this is from The Blaze, which used to be, if I'm not mistaken, this was owned by Glenn Beck, and then Glenn Beck, I'm still not sure of the relationship, either sold it or was forced out or something of that nature. But this is true in the story. The media, after the bombing, abandoned its investigative nature and its role as a watchdog. It has done that consistently since. It seems to, for whatever reason, love the government these days. And for 2 decades, this gentleman who is writing the article, let me see, Margaret Roberts, gentlewoman, has said that she's been part of the effort for almost 2 decades, working alongside attorneys and the connections. And this is a very interesting article. I'm not going to go into this article in depth. At the conclusion of the show, you can go to bloviatingzeppelin.net and read all the show notes and all the show links. Or you can go to the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show on Rumble at rumble.com. And under this particular show, Prison for Those Who Engaged in the Shadow Government 46, you can see all the show links there as well. And I highly encourage you to do that, because the deal with me is these days, and I'm 39 people watching live. Thank you very much. There's so much going on. It's very, very difficult to keep track of everything. But the point of my show is I don't make anything up. I don't need to make anything up. I bring the articles and I bring the videos to the show, to you, and via the internet, because I still have the ability to search the internet. I'm mostly gone and vacuous, but I'm not that quite gone and vacuous yet. And I show you via the internet the things that the American media maggots selectively choose to ignore. And I figure that's my job. It's my jobbing. So as we move along, I said we're going to talk about, there are some stories, there are some news and things that have just come out, including this, which I find very disappointing, extremely disappointing. Now, this is from AFN.net, American Family News. The headline is, Supreme Court rejects appeal of Massachusetts student who wanted to wear only 2 genders t-shirt. Well, let's go into the story. The justices on SCOTUS decided to leave in place a federal court ruling that said it would not second-guess the decision of educators in Middleborough, Massachusetts, to not allow the t-shirt to be worn in a school environment because of a negative impact on transgender and gender non-conforming students. This is bullshit and psychobabble, multi-syllabic pablum for, we just quashed your First Amendment rights. because I speak leftist, and this is how I translate this for you. Now, there are still some smart heads on SCOTUS. Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas dissented. The court should have heard the case. Jurist Alito said, noting the school permitted and indeed encouraged student expression, endorsing the view that there are many genders, but censored the opposing view. Now, am I looking at this incorrectly? Is this anything other than a First Amendment case? I don't see it any other way, in any other fashion. Quote, the case presents an issue of great importance to our nation's youth, whether public schools may suppress student speech either because it expresses a viewpoint that the school disfavors or because of vague concerns about the likely effect of the speech on the school atmosphere or on students who find the speech offensive. So SCOTUS just caved on offensive speech, shoved it back down to the appellate court, and said, in essence, we're not going to affirm the First Amendment, which, as I indicate, I find this extremely distressing, extremely disturbing, but unfortunately, that's where we are in the United States of America under this particular SCOTUS. Then there's this from Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, here we go. This is correct. This is from Jersey Joe. The First Amendment was just erased over hurt feelings. Well, yeah, that's correct. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, that is the Director of National Intelligence. The DNI is over the CIA, over the NSA, DIA, etc., and the other 17 intelligence agencies. I use that word loosely, intelligence. As Director of National Intelligence, I promised to root out and expose politicization of intelligence. I declassified 2 reports that show how the Biden admin labeled Americans who disagreed with their policies as potential domestic violent extremists, which was often followed by FBI investigations, surveillance, and government-directed social media censorship. This is what the Stasi did. This is what occurred in Russia. This is what occurs in dictatorships. So let me see if I can expand this. Oh, darn it. I don't have the ability to do that. However, let me make note of this for you. You can see my cursor right here. And this is an element of something that is shipped out to law enforcement if it's not of a classified nature. And that's generally how that looks. This goes out to law enforcement. In law enforcement, this went out to law enforcement saying that Americans who disagreed with the policies as were potential domestic violent extremists. And then law enforcement consumed this material. And that's the point. You, me, lots of other people, we were labeled as extremists and terrorists by our own government because we believed in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We believed in independence. We believed in the foundational documents, the founding fathers. And that's what happened under the DOJ and the FBI. Let me go over to another. And as you saw, Tulsi Gabbard just rooted this information out. There's another thing that occurred recently. You see the nexus between freedom of speech. I showed you a SCOTUS ruling where, in my opinion, it removed and it did not uphold our First Amendment rights. And then you can see how our opinions under the government, under the 46 regime, autopen regime, wanted to crush us like little snot bugs. And then here's someone from CBS speaking at some kind of a graduation speech, where is immaterial, but he's the victim now. Scott Pelley is the victim now.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack.
Journalism is under attack because you are no longer journalists. You carry water for leftists, period. Universities are under attack by Muslims and those who hate Jews. So far in 2 points, Scott Pelley is way fucking wrong.
Freedom of speech is under attack.
By you, by leftists, by Democrats, by the American media maggots. Continue.
And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts.
We're reaching. This is an amazing capability that apparently I possess and you possess as well. I have the ability to reach into Scott Pelley's brain and make him think what I want him to think, when in fact, all of the things against which he is railing already occurred under 46, under the auto pen regime. Remember when it is said that those people, when they accuse you, me, conservatives of things, it is they who are doing those exact same things, only worse. And wait, the drama is yet to come.
The fear to speak in America
was pushed by assholes like you on 60 Minutes in the prior administration.
If our government is, in Lincoln's phrase,
Wake Forest, Brian Piccolo would be turning over in his grave right now, and maybe.
Of the people, by the people, for the people.
And the only way he knew that is he looked it up. He couldn't automatically have that come out. He didn't know. These people, leftists and Democrats, do not know the Constitution. They are not familiar with the Bill of Rights. The history of the U.S. Constitution is no longer taught in con law, and that's one of the major reasons you get people like this and others who interpret the Constitution.
Then why are we afraid to speak? The Wake Forest class of 1861, they did not choose their time of calling. The class of 1941 did not choose. The class of 1968 did not choose. History chose them. And now,
okay, let me stop right here. If these people were so wonderful in the journalistic community right now, and again, I use all those terms very, very loosely, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in right now. They wouldn't have to worry about anything. They wouldn't have to worry about the loss of eyes and money. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I am BZ. It is Thursday. It is the last show of May for me. It's May 29th, the year of our Lord 2025. And thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Thanks to everybody for following SHR. If you would, I would remind you very kindly of this. We are 13 subscribers away from 500 subscribers. And we'll get, my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that each one of us at SHR will be bestowed a 2025 Rolls-Royce Phantom Supreme. Now, Sackhead Sean has said he wants his in magenta and cerulean, with just a hint of teal and some nice tiger striped seats, leather seats inside his. To me, that's a little gauche. That's a little gaudy. Gaudy. I don't think that I would want something like that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's what YouTube has promised. Or words to that effect, Senator. We're going to go to another story here in just a moment. And it's about sanctions on Putin. But before we talk about sanctions on Putin, I wanted to talk about something that has been addressed here on this show any number of times. And I believe a lot of other people have addressed it on their shows as well. The EU, the European Union, wants things both ways for them all the time, period. Particularly after World War II. And particularly after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, 1989. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. But the EU wants things both ways. It wants the U.S. to step in and take care, taking care of Russia over Ukraine, up to and including U.S. boots on Ukraine ground in Iraq, in a proxy war with Russia. They wouldn't mind seeing that. Yet the EU somehow remarkably cannot stop filleting Russia's Gazprom as it clutches pearls in hopes of not having their oil spigot going righty-tighty for the rest of the continent and the EU. Remember Trump 45 back then telling Europe to its face, and I think it was NATO. I don't have the video for it right now, but I can pull it up sometime later. That the U.S., he told NATO the EU to its face that the U.S. is expected to pay for EU NATO defense against Russia by them, while simultaneously, particularly Germany, simultaneously and very hypocritically funded Russia and continues to fund Russia by purchasing their energy. Now, it's if you know Putin a little bit, I don't know him, I've never met him, but I am a student of history. Being originally a member of the KGB, it's no shock that Putin wants to put the USSR band back together. And as he said, he doesn't want, and has made it expressly clear, that he does not want another NATO nation on his doorstep at his border. He's made this clear any number of times. So the EU then apparently expects to not honor their NATO commitments, expects the U.S. to continue footing the major bill, wants us to step in physically with regard to Ukraine in any way Ukraine and the EU desire, and wants to be beholden to Russia for fuel. They want it both ways. And it's, make no mistake, it's you and me, the American taxpayer, we're supposed to sacrifice for the EU, for Ukraine, for the world, not Europe. It's our job to do without. It's your job to pay taxes and not be able to take care of, say, your kids or your family. The U.S. is supposed to sacrifice, not the EU, as far as they're concerned. And to which I reply, wrong. Not just regular wrong, but extra crispy wrong. Because all that crap is in their backyard. It's not in our backyard. So here's the story. New sanctions can shock crazy Putin to his senses. This was just 3 days ago. Vladimir Putin has gone absolutely crazy. President Trump posted Sunday night, we agree. How about some tough new sanctions to shock him back to his senses? As Trump said, Putin is sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all. Nobody likes it at all. But all of this is in not our backyard. For example, let me suggest this. Anyone remember? Probably no one, except myself. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, I believe, and the Bay of Pigs, 1961 or 1962. I haven't looked it up. But during that, we almost compared various throw weights by way of nuclear war with Russia because Russia was shipping missiles to Cuba. Well, we didn't like it. Cuba is 90 miles away from Florida. So it's no shock that Putin doesn't want another NATO-aligned another NATO-aligned country on his border. Now, right or wrong, what I'm saying is you need to understand Putin. And I don't love Putin. I don't need to try to explain myself. Everyone knows who Putin is. Oh, BZ, you're Putin's puppet. So is Trump. Bullshit and fuck off. But if you want to get anywhere, it's with a thorough understanding of history if you possibly can. And if you don't understand, and if you're not willing to negotiate, then things are not going to get accomplished. Here's another story that I want everybody to think about. I frequently have a gentleman by the name of Mike Fitzpatrick on my show, and he is my cybersecurity expert. He knows all about the digital world, AI, hacking, all of that. Here's a story from The Hill. China has an off switch for America in terms of a hack, and we aren't ready to deal with it. Now, this has already occurred on a national basis by way of a program called Sandworm from Russia shut down power in Ukraine in the early 2000s. This isn't it might happen. This is it has already happened. Imagine waking up tomorrow, your phone has no signal, your smartphone isn't working, your ring cameras offline. You're getting your car, but your GPS won't work. The scenario is digital darkness caused by China's off switch for America. It is the penultimate step in China's strategy to defeat America before gunning for global control. China is our enemy. If you don't realize that, I cannot fix you, because there is no fixing stupid. China is our enemy. If you don't believe that China already has embedded itself in all sorts of locations throughout the United States, including into our universities and our utilities, then you're not a particularly smart individual. And you need to be sent to an educated camp or a re-education camp, or like a bad truck tire, you need to be sent back in for regrooving, because that's an imminent possibility. 48 people watching live right now. Thanks to everyone who is watching. And then there is this that particularly torqued me off today. The Nashville mayor, O'Connell, doxed the names of ICE agents and then attempted to retract it, say, oh, that information just escaped, and we pulled it right back. There's only one reason for doxing ICE agents and law enforcement, and that's to bring protests and violence to the very doors of these officers. You may have asked yourself, why is it that when you see ICE agents making arrests, they're covered, the bottom of their face is covered with masks? Because they know full well that if their faces got out there, that leftists by way of government would find a way to perch on the doorstep of all of these people and visit violence on their homes and their family. It's no more complicated than that.
It looks like Mayor O'Connell was involved in some sort of obstruction or the harboring of criminal illegal aliens in the great city of Nashville. But also just last night, his office put out the names of Homeland Security investigators and doxed our ICE enforcement officers. They claimed it was a mistake. There's zero chance it was a mistake, and there will be repercussions. Our ICE enforcement officers are already facing a 400% increase in assaults against them. And he's essentially handing over intelligence to these criminal gangs so that they can target our ICE enforcement officers. It's wrong, and it's beneath the city of Nashville, and I hope he will face consequences.
But will he? No one knows. If the past is any indicator of the future, likely nothing will happen. The DOJ is very busy. We all know that. Let me go back to comments here. You're telling me my dream world there, BZ. I grew up in the woods, and I'll gladly go back to the woods. And Jeremy Hansen says, yeah, that's sick. That's very sick. Leftists and cartels. The only reason to do that is to visit violence on these law enforcement personnel. That's it. There is no other possibility for that. There's no other reason. Now, also, in terms of news, speaking of fucksticks, and speaking of racist fucksticks who happen to be black males, there's this story from the Daily Wire. You wonder why a particular agency locked Doge out? Well, it wouldn't have anything to do with corruption, would it? BZ, you racist, for calling these two poor black men racists. Let's go into the story. This foreign aid agency locked its doors to keep Doge out. Now we know why. Money intended for Africans was secretly rerouted to D.C. bureaucrats and their friends by racist, abusive bosses, employees say. And who would know them best? Well, that would be the employees. When Doge showed up at a small USAID-linked federal agency called the African Development Foundation in March, its management locked the doors and refused to let auditors in. So its board decided that it was going to sue Doge to stop them. And the leftists and Democrats applauded for taking a stance and not granting access to these people. But the objection, now it turns out that former employees told the Daily Wire, which is where this story comes from, might not have been on principled grounds, but rather because those records amounted to a crime scene. The African Development Foundation's employees have been sounding the alarm for years about self-dealing cruelty and anti-white discrimination at that agency, the African Development Foundation. An official promoted for his for-profit, multi-level marketing scheme to poor Africans. Law enforcement identified possible criminal kickbacks, and those who now lament Doge's shuttering of the agency did nothing to fix it when they had a chance to fix it. Imagine that. And like I say, this and all the other stories tonight, you'll be able to find and read and examine in depth at bloviatingzeppelin.net. And also on my rumble.com Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You can go to YouTube, look at that, watch the show later in podcast in Rumble, and you can examine these in great detail. Mission Ready Men says, say it isn't so. I might go so far as to suggest that Earl could possibly be gobsmacked. Gobsmacked, I tell you, that something as reprehensible as this could even occur in the United States of America. 50 people watching live right now. Thanks. Wonderful circular thanks to everyone for being here tonight and watching live and also being in the podcast. Now, I said that we're going to do some news. I've done some news. I highly recommend that you read that article, however, about the Oklahoma City bombing. Mission Ready Men, always smart and with it. By the way, you already saw that Mission Ready Men on the previous promo. That was Earl Biggie Jackson, and he has his show on Tuesdays and Thursdays before me, and that's at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central, and noon Eastern. And you should watch Mission Ready Men. And listen to the promos, if you would, please. Jeremy Hansen says, I see you are back at 486. I hope that's with regard to views right now, but I am uncertain because I'm not that smart. Because I'm fat, I'm obese, I'm ancient, and I'm really hairy. And nobody said that I was ever any good whatsoever with technology. Although I do still know how to, what is this? Go back this way. Yes, there we go. Up here, I can see how many people I believe are watching from YouTube. Unleash Jeremy Hansen says, subscribers. Oh, okay. We have acquired a few. Then that's excellent. Subscriptions. Okay. Only the third one tonight. This is from Jersey Joe. Oh no, we lost a subscriber, but aptly so, Jersey Joe blames Sean, which is exactly what I would do. Also, do you know what time it is?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Yeah, I think it is time for happy stories and good times. Just last week, we were hit right in the gazette saying that there were any number of black-robed leftist anarchist jurists who have been kicking Trump's ass, saying that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this and that, just because they themselves are leftists. Here's a happy story. Trump tariffs reinstated by appeals court for now. Don't let people tell you that this didn't occur, because it, in fact, did occur. Let's continue with the happy stories. Stop. Let me go back here a little bit. Put this up. Oh, Kamala Harris, Cammy Cackler, was in Australia recently. What did she have to say?
Guess who's in town? Just very quickly, Kamala Harris is doing, we told you about it here on the show, she's doing her speech up in the Gold Coast today. Kamala Harris will be lecturing them on being unburdened in your real estate ventures by what you're not burdened by, or whatever.
I cannot wait to see what word salads she's going to be delivering.
I hope someone's filmed it. And there was a word salad. I just don't have time to go into it right now. But you know that was going to happen, and it did. In fact, let's go to this now in terms of happy story. This was grand. This was great. And I also have an overlay to show about this. An illegal immigrant decided that he was going to threaten to assassinate Trump in a letter, in a handwritten letter. And then subsequently, this illegal invader, Mexican, got arrested. Well, why do you delineate that he's a Mexican, BZ? Because leftists and Democrats always love their illegal invaders. Here's the letter that this guy was arrested behind. We're tired of this president messing with us Mexicans. Oh, BZ, did you say it because he refers to himself as a Mexican? Yes, we have done more for this country than you white people. You have been deporting my family, and I think it is time Donald J. Trump get what he has coming to him. I will self-deport myself back to Mexico, but not before I use my 30-yard six. Now, this is how fucking stupid this guy is, and probably doesn't have a rifle, because it's 30-06 if he's talking about the caliber, but he still says he's going to use it to shoot your precious president in his head. I will see him at one of his big rallies. Hence an arrest. That is a happy story. Let us continue with more happy stories. This was also wonderful. Rubio targets foreign nationals who he alleges police American social media posts. Secretary of State, basically, Marco Rubio, has said, what do I got? About 5 more minutes before the top of the hour break. I'll be able to make this story. Marco Rubio said yesterday a new visa restriction policy targeting foreign officials who he says are complicit in censoring what Americans say online. There is no right to jump into the United States of America via a visa if you're a foreign official and you expect to be allowed into the country. There is no expectation of that. Being here is a privilege. It is not a right. For too long, Americans have been fined, harassed, and even charged by foreign authorities for exercising their free speech rights. Hey, isn't that what Vice President, the VP said to, I believe it was Germans? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, VP Vance took essentially various Europeans to the woodshed about their inability to love free speech. I'm announcing a new visa restriction policy that will apply to foreign officials and personas who are complicit in censoring Americans. Free speech is essential to the American way of life, a birthright over which foreign governments have no authority. I wish our very own SCOTUS recognized me. Gee, it says Sky News Australia is awesome, and that is very true. And the Mexican illegal invader, not necessarily a spelling bee champ. And Marco has been, in fact, great recently. Canada Heavy All has said Marco Rubio has definitely impressed me. So essentially what happened, and what has continued to happen, is that Trump 47 have ramped up pressure on global allies, particularly in Europe, over what the administration describes as an increasing hostility towards free speech. And then they have the temerity and the audacity to wag their little leftist and progressive fingers at us while we fund everything that they have. That by this funding, that's what has allowed them historically for decade after decade after decade to have the exquisite, wonderful little societal safety net that they have in terms of welfare, while us Americans, with our hard-earned taxpayer dollars, are having that money ripped from us and sent to Europe. Under NATO, each country must pay a certain percentile to support NATO. The people in Europe, the Europeans, except for a select maybe 2 or 3 countries, are not even doing that. Rubio on Wednesday criticized efforts by foreign governments to allegedly pressure U.S. tech companies into embracing global content moderation rules that would affect social media users in the United States of America. And essentially, to that, all I say is, Europe, fuck you.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right, you can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. It's the beginning of the second hour. I happen to be BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin, Zepulus, Mark 1, Model 1, Zepulus-ish-isnischen, full of bulbosity. You can look at me and you can see that I am full of bulbosity. And if you want to be in the chat room, this is what our chat room looks like. Now, I try to update it quite frequently so that it is fresh, it is enticing, it's a great place to be. And I call it our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room simply because it is. Now I'm in the process of moving things around a little bit. Summer is here. I don't know. I think summer is already here, right? I'm pretty sure that summer is here. Spring has sprung, the grass is raised. I wonder where the birdies is. No, it's summer right now. And summer solstice, if I'm not mistaken, which is the longest day, is June 21st, somewhere right around there. I believe so. We were doing happy stories. Here's another happy story. Excuse me. The American meat. Excuse me. This is an important part of the show. Take that down. Put me up there. Now, it's time for a little potato water. As you can see, my throat was getting dry. So it's time for a little potato water. Let's put this back up here. Thanks, BZ. Thanks, Kettle One. Appreciate that too. Trump's approval rating inching near 2-month high. So say the polls. And that's true. And that's a happy story. Let's continue and move on. Here's another one. RFK is tweaking the shit out of leftists and Democrats. And it's wonderful. What's he doing? He's ending gain-of-function experiments and research based upon radical gender ideology, a crackdown on fentanyl and drug addiction. Bingo, both great. $94 billion towards better food, fitness, and childcare. FDA action to remove toxic chemicals from the food supply, slashing wasteful NIH projects. Yeah. Hello. Merging mental health and addiction programs for faster, better care. Giving local leaders more power to fix problems in their own communities. Which, isn't that what we want essentially? Local control, and the answer is yes. A major upgrade to Head Start, the early education program. And he said, we intend to make the Trump HHS not just the most effective, but also the most compassionate in the history of the United States.
Let me be clear. We intend to make the Trump HHS not just the most effective, but also the most compassionate in U.S. history. Our official budget statement outlines many priorities, but I will highlight a few. First, we will consolidate programs to better tackle mental health and addiction. These issues now rival chronic disease in their impact. HHS will aggressively combat the opioid crisis, especially the spread of synthetic drugs like fentanyl. We will empower state, local, and tribal leaders to create effective.
Okay, stop. Lost Wanderer. That's not true, is it? It's not true. Continue.
Solutions. Second, we will address nutrition, physical activity, and healthy lifestyles. The president budget requests $94 billion in discretionary funds to support these priorities, including the Administration for a Healthy America. We will emphasize healthy eating and Head Start and ensure the program continues to serve its 750,000 children and parents effectively.
That's a happy story. Let us continue with happy stories, which also is this. There's no video to this, but I think you need to know the information. RFK Jr. just put all the medical journals bought off by Big Pharma, and that's the truth. Because money talks and bullshit walks. So he put Big Pharma and the medical journals on notice. This includes The Lancet, the New England Medical Journal of Medicine, JAMA, and those other journals because they are all corrupt. Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself. Kennedy pointed to the testimony of Dr. Marcia Angel, former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, who warned the public that it is no longer a science journal. Instead, she called it a vessel for pharmaceutical propaganda. And we were propagandized in 2020 and before and up until 2024, January 20th, 2025. We're going to stop NIH scientists from publishing there, and we're going to create our own journals in health in each of the institutions. He added that these new government-backed journals will become the preeminent journals in the world because they'll be based on real science, not bought outcomes. No one else would have the clanking balls to say this except RFK. If you get NIH funding, Kennedy said, it is anointing you as a good, legitimate scientist, when in fact, perhaps the exact opposite would be truth. Here's another story, if I can get it to play. This should have occurred a long time ago. The U.S. is going to pay nearly $5 million to the survivors in the family of January 6th rioter Ashley Babbitt. Oh, she wasn't a rioter. And I can tell you quite frankly, if the roles were reversed, if a local law enforcement agency, a guy who was white, shot a black rioter who was going through a window and unarmed, myself or anyone else would be under the prison. Simple as that. Finally, some justice, but not much, because to the family of Ashley Babbitt, she's still dead and you can't bring her back. Here's another story that was happy, especially this past Memorial Day. Oil prices have crashed to 4-year lows. That's a wonderful thing. Also, there was an ICE raid on Nantucket, 12 detained and removed by the Coast Guard. The people on Nantucket revolted. Oh my God, how dare you come to our beloved leftist sanctuary and get rid of the people that pick our fruit off of our lovely tree, mow our yards, dust the doofers on my dog. You evil person. Well, it turns out that the people that were arrested were included, a murderer, a rapist, and folks like that, which apparently leftists and Democrats and progressives all love, those kinds and types of illegal invaders. Here's another happy story. Migrants are heading south. For years, millions of people traveled through Central America, north of the United States. Now that flow is changing direction. If that isn't a happy story, I quite frankly don't know what the hell is. Also, here's another happy story that you can read at your leisure later. I'll just go over the headline because I got to rush through these things. I'm losing time. Exclusive. Trump admin rolls out new tool to stop non-citizens from hijacking U.S. elections. That seems like a very positive route for me. This is grand. Now, if you happen to live in San Francisco, you may love this. You may love it. Sean Lewis of the Edge of Liberty last night, if I'm not mistaken, said something like, hey, California always spelled it with a K, although he doesn't say it exactly that way like I do. Says California is nuts. Education is nuts. And that's absolutely true. This story, which just came out 2 days ago, grading for equity coming to San Francisco high schools this fall. So what I said essentially in review of this was, hey, stupid, lazy kids of leftists in leftist urban rat cages are about to get even lazier and stupider courtesy of this. District materials highlight a decrease in A grades for more privileged students. Without seeking approval of the San Francisco Board of Education Superintendent of Schools, Maria Sue plans to unveil a new grading for equity plan that will go into effect this fall at 14 high schools in San Francisco. San Francisco itself is both a county and a city, covering over 10,000 students. By the way, I should like to interject at this point, and again, you can read the article at your leisure later on. There are more dogs in San Francisco than there are children. Let that sink in. That doesn't happen to be, that's some kind of a terrible factoid, BZ. That's not true. As a matter of fact, yes, it is. Here's someone that just learned something in Newark.
You too. They don't really care.
Why do you think they're going to take me too?
Because you have brown skin.
That's pretty racist. I'm an American citizen.
Doesn't matter.
So you think I'm going to get deported?
You could.
So this woman right here thinks I'm going to get deported because I'm a brown woman. That's an extremely racist thing to say, ma'am.
No, the racist people are...
No, you're the racist because you just came up to me and said I'm going to get deported because I'm brown. How dare you? How dare you sit here and speak to me because of my skin tone. No, I don't need to be careful. Guess what? I voted for Donald Trump because he's a president of law and order, and I've actually met him. He's very nice. And it's racists like you who stand here and tell me that I'm going to get deported because I'm brown. How dare you? This is the...
Okay, this just continues. It goes on a circular firing squad kind of thing. It goes on in terms of, but I tell you, now and forever, because this simply isn't going to change, the true racists are Democrats and leftists. Period. End of statement. Wait. I'm backed up in chat. There once was a man from Nantucket. And also, time is an illusion. Lunch is doubly so. I missed lunch today. You're right. It is an illusion. BZ, you need more Boston accent when you speak as Sean. Yeah, you're right. I do need to have a Boston. I'm sorry. Baston, a Baston accent. Savannah wasn't having it. Boy, is that the truth. Phantom facts. And that's always been true. Democrats are the individuals of racists, the party of racists. It's no more complicated than that. Let me see if I can continue and go on. I will show this briefly. Again, I recommend reading this later on at bloviatingzeppelin.net or BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon on Rumble. But the headline says it all. Check out the 14 times regular folks turned the tables on violent crooks over the last year. Thank God we had our guns. Now, this is interesting because I'm going to be doing a very special show sometime in the not too terribly distant future about firearms and about the responsibility of police to protect you. Would you believe that there is essentially no responsibility of police to protect you? But always, by the way, simultaneously, leftists, Democrats, progressives, and globalists want to remove your ability to defend yourselves. And perhaps you're saying, BZ, of course that can't be true, but it is true. And I will show you about that. Also, let me stop here just a little bit. Very shortly, I'm in the process of working it up right now. I'm going to be doing an SHR Media special report on the SHR 71. That aircraft has absolutely astounded me, and I have about just almost every book, including a flight manual, on the SR 71. This hopes to be produced in maybe a month or two, but I'm currently working on it. It's packed, jam-packed with information. I will also be doing an SHR Media special report about 2028 and how we have to differentiate and striate a major difference between who's going and running for president and 2026 in terms of what the Democrats are going to be utilizing as cudgels and weapons against us next year. There is a huge difference between that. Also, this story, in terms of happy story, anti-Chinese government group launches plan to track anti-CCP legislation in state houses because China is our enemy. Also, remember about the 747, which was built by Boeing in the United States of America, and everybody was saying, oh, Trump is corrupt. He's been taking this. Well, maybe, would you believe maybe some of that could have occurred under the Autopen regime?
The United States take a 747, but here's what's interesting to me. What the media isn't telling you, what no one's talking to you about, is this same 747 has been in negotiations for a year. The Biden administration is the one that started these conversations. It didn't start underneath the Trump administration. Why? Because we need a backup for Air Force One. Because right now, the president of the United States is flying around on a 40-year-old plane, and there is no backup for it. The backup we had, the airframe started having structural issues. No one's discussing that part. They're just discussing that the deal ended with President Trump. Maybe the media doesn't know. Maybe I'll give them a pass. Maybe you didn't know. I'll give you the pass. I'll give you a pass on that one.
But I guarantee you didn't know that yourself. The negotiations for the 747 from Qatar didn't begin with Trump. It began with Biden. This is also a grand little video right now.
I'm okay with that. All right, what if I was a young student at Columbia? They're on a green card, British, come in, happy to be here, do all my paperwork, get to Columbia. And I start leading a group which is a bunch of white supremacists, and we start terrorizing black students in the way that they were terrorizing Jewish students. Well, hang on. In that circumstance, would we all be as comfortable with this, or is it the reality which was exposed by the mobs at Columbia, which is that for some reason Jews get treated differently to anybody else when it comes to this kind of thing? Because if that had been, honestly, white supremacists treating black students like that, they would be out the country in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes.
So a little bit of truth. That's a happy story because it is constructed of absolute truth. And that's why I included it here for you tonight. I got to make myself small, got to make myself big, and continue. This is also interesting. Going to read the headline, just that. Florida GOP flips Miami-Dade in voter registration for the first time in history. For the first time ever, Miami-Dade County has more registered Republicans than Democrats. Never happened. Can we continue? Or are we going to just piss it away in 2026? I will be speaking and addressing that. Here's Lisa Murkowski looking and sounding very sad. Poor Lisa.
What do you have to say to people who are afraid? Or who represent people who are afraid? We are all afraid. Okay.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, Lisa Murkowski is a Republican from Alaska, and she's afraid. She's a super rhino. She may as well just put a D instead of an R behind her name. And she's afraid of you and me and Trumplicans. Dun, dun, dun. Damn it, producer. Get your act together. She's so afraid.
But
oh, shut up. Let's move on. Anyway, that's a happy story because I want her to be afraid. I want her to be afraid of not keeping up with Republicans and not keeping up with conservatives. Now, this one I'm going to play because some of you will get it. Some of you may not. Jesus. This is, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm not going to play it. It's just for effect. This is Eric Bolling. Eric Bolling, I think, used to be on Fox, and he's kind of conservative. And he's talking about, did Letitia James commit mortgage fraud? I'm not even going to play this. What I want to show you is anybody who knows, doesn't Eric Bolling look like Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead? You know, if you put a cowboy hat on this guy, wouldn't he look like Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead? I saw that and I laughed my fucking ass off, as a matter of fact. Speaking of Democrats and laughing asses off, this is a moron named Michael Bennett. And he's talking to CNN. And he's saying Elon Musk is so bad Elon Musk for his major contributions to political campaigns. And then whoever this bint is says something similar to, well, then maybe we ought to just stop that from occurring. And then Bennett, take it away. It's yours. The stage is yours, sir.
And I'm using Elon Musk as an example, but we've got problems on the Democratic side as well. And this is one of those instances, Caitlin, where I think we need to think very hard about how to overcome Citizens United. We may need a constitutional amendment to deal with it.
Yeah.
And other generations of Americans have amended the Constitution to get women the right to vote.
Clear,
they haven't said it's impossible.
You would not accept donations from billionaires going forward. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't.
Okay. Do you see this? You know, if he was true to form, he would have said, yes, definitely, Caitlin, I'm not accepting money except.
I'm one of the very few members of the Senate who does not accept corporate PAC money, for example. So I'm not. If you're asking about independent expenditures, of billionaires. I haven't thought that through because I'm not in a position.
Because I'm a fucking boob, and money is like the mother's milk to me, and we all realize that the spice must flow, and the spice is flowing. Let's go back to chat here a little bit because you guys fucking rock in chat right now. Lost Wanderer Murkowski. The only D she gets is the one after her name to show what party she should belong to. I said what I said. Give him a mole and bam. That's right. Eric Bowling doesn't he look like Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead? If you just slapped a hat on top of that dude, I think it's true. That's exactly what I thought when I saw that big change for Mr. Bowling. Yeah, Lemmy. Okay, well, I guess he had to be there. I guess that had to be a part of it. So let's go over here and let's see if we can. What do I got? Another 5 minutes. Now, excellent. Now, remember, I said that what we're going to be talking about tonight is I had some news, and you heard some news. And then I did some happy stories, and I'm pretty much completed with happy stories at this point. Now we're going to be talking about a shadow government. And in terms of that, I did some digging, and somebody else might find some extra things that I did not discover. But what I did discover is if you're looking at crimes in terms of having been committed by there being a shadow government, if say, let's postulate here just for a moment, if a small group of individuals illegally make decisions for a presidential administration instead of that duly elected president, a range of serious crimes and constitutional violations could be involved. And here's what I discovered, at least 3. There may be more. This is not certainly a comprehensive list by any means. But the first one I discovered is 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States of America. The law makes it a crime to conspire to interfere with or obstruct lawful government functions. Now, the application of this is if individuals conspire to take over presidential powers unlawfully, this could be considered an attempt to defraud or obstruct the functioning of the U.S. government. Mission Ready Men says, gotta run. Thanks for being here tonight, Earl, and I appreciate it. Lost Wanderer says, kudos, be safe, ta-ta for now. And then there was a second USC that I found for this, and that is 18 USC 2384. And these are strictly out of the United States Code. I don't make them up because I don't need to, as I said from the very beginning of the show. So this is sedition or seditious conspiracy. It is illegal to conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the U.S. government or to oppose its authority. So if the takeover involves force, threats, or a plan to unlawfully remove presidential authority, this might apply. Now, a lot of people I've discovered, because I have investigated and used this before, where I believe, if you recall, General Mark Milley committed treason. In my estimation, under that applicable USC code, that applied to General Milley when he said that he would notify our enemy, China, if Trump considered unleashing force or missiles or any attack against China proper. That was treason. Milley and Lloyd Austin, they were both pieces of crap. Thank God they are gone now. Treason, however, falls under 18 USC, and I'm going to wrap this up real quick, but I will continue after the break. Treason is 18 USC 2381, and treason is going to be a rough road to hoe. It's levying war upon the United States or giving aid to its enemies. And there are those who say, I don't know, you might be able to winkle that around a little bit. And I say, no, that's going to be a little bit more, actually a lot more difficult to prove. Treason is, in fact, difficult to prove. And it involves usually active warfare, potential active warfare, or aiding enemies, as in Milley, as in China. Because if Milley if Milley said that he was going to do that, then Lloyd Austin, by dint of his being the boss, would likewise have been, as an extension, guilty of treason. That was not applied. So treason here in this instance, I think, would be really, really difficult to play. It if the usurpation, though, is done in coordination with foreign adversaries, which I don't yet see, this could come into play. Maybe somebody else has information regarding this. I don't see it. I haven't seen information about it, but when we get back, we will continue. And as I indicated for this show tonight, prison, there must be prison levied upon people who engaged in the shadow government 46. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
Are you looking for bold, honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, the struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It's the last half hour, although I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a 2-hour show. I'm getting the sneaky, creeping feeling that there may be some overtime involved tonight. Now, I don't know how much, but I thank you all for being here tonight, being in the saloon, watching live. Please subscribe to the show. As I indicated, let's go up here. We are super close to almost getting 500 subscribers. And I think we're about 13 away from getting that many 500 subscribers. So if you would, please subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. We would all be really grateful for that as well. As I said before earlier, and people aren't going to talk about this, Donald Trump's rating has gone up +7. May 21st through the 26th. Everybody in the American media magazine is going to tell, no, it hasn't, man. No, it just, no. They're lying. They open their mouths and they're lying. Here's a standard presidential list, beginning with George Washington and going all the way down. Here's Trump 45. Here's Trump 47, but let's look closer, because this is actually what you had. President 46, which was a bunch of leftist staffers, to potentially include these people: Hunter Biden, Jill Biden, Ron Klain, Bruce Reed, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donilon, and others to be named in second or third choice picks, depending upon the NFL draft. And, Lost Wanderer says, ooh, OT, potentiality. It does exist. This is true. What does a president do if he finds out that the previous president was not simply unable to carry out his duties, but others were illegally forging his signature? Consider, and I believe this to be true, not only does that render the decisions null and void legally, but doesn't that also mean that there was a coordinated conspiracy to usurp and control the office of the President of the United States of America? It sounds like sedition. Not treason. I would disagree with that. That would be a huge lump, a huge hill to surmount. It would be very difficult. But I'm going to go into some other abuses of power that are to be considered. But here is why I believe that almost no one will attempt to take this, grapple it, and try to run with it. Because if proven without a shadow of a doubt, and trust me, everybody all across the United Snakes of America, all throughout the Boneyard Land, they're trying to ignore this, including all the courts, and definitely SCOTUS doesn't. If you think SCOTUS wants to hear this, bullshit. They don't want to hear it. There's no court that wants to hear it. There's no court that wants to give them standing. You can be damn sure of that. The Republicans don't want to handle this. And the Democrats certainly don't want to handle this. Do you think the DOJ wants to take this on? With all the deep staters involved? Do you think the FBI could take it on, even though they have Kash Patel, Dan Bongino? That's just a couple of people. You know, we hear stories of the fact, the Indians, not the chiefs, the Indians are glad to see all these guys go. There are a shit ton, an assload, that's an assload, of deep staters still in the DOJ and the FBI who don't want to see this go anywhere. The pushback against this will be every bit as awesomely extreme as Epstein, because too much would be revealed. It would essentially be a predicate to allow DC to be taken down, politicians, celebrities to be taken down. It would turn this country absolutely like Guam. It would capsize, and Hank Johnson would be correct for once. So there is a huge cadre of individuals involving this small cadre of individuals who don't want to see this go anywhere. So you could also consider that this might be abuse of power, official misconduct, and that's using a public office to achieve personal or political gain in violation of laws or ethical norms. They could be charged with abuse of power, especially if they subvert the president's lawful authority. Good luck proving that one. Obstruction of justice. Now that is a U.S. code. That's 18 U.S.C. 1501 to 1521. Interference with the administration of law and justice. Pretty big, pretty wide. May potentially be applicable if these individuals obstructed investigations, interfered with law enforcement, or prevented the president from executing duties. This could apply. Or something similar to usurpation of public office, pretending to hold or exercise authority of a public office without legal right. Now, a lot of these, if you apply them properly, I believe that they are applicable. 60 people watching live right now. Thanks. And then there may be any number of hordes of constitutional violations, breaches of constitutional separation of powers and democratic principles. This is a republic, not a democracy. I reemphasizingly. Constitutional violations like overriding a presidential authority are really difficult to prove and really difficult to prosecute criminally. That might lead to impeachment, but see, all that stuff is the horse is out of the barn. The horse is gone. So there must be a certain percentile of stuff that can be applied. I believe there are a number of statutes that you could wiggle around and apply to this situation. Now, the biggest question, of course, is will they? Then I found another one. I had to write this one down. Potential espionage or foreign collusion, if applicable. I have not yet heard anything that falls into this. If the group acted on behalf, that cadre of the people that I just illustrated up here, those and perhaps some others, we're going to be going into another person, at least one or two more, if I'm not mistaken. If that group acted on behalf of or some kind of a coordination with a foreign government, with espionage or the Foreign Agents Registration Act, then that also could be likewise applicable in this. So there are some things that can be utilized, not necessarily if you're creative, but if you have the will. You must have the will to protect the United States of America. And it constantly shocks me how few people seem to be interested in protecting her. You know, it's shocking. Let me go to comments. Switching to the Bit Apple iPad. If I fall asleep, please know it is not a reflection on your show, but it was 1 a.m. here in Vermont. Yes, it is 9:44 or 9:45 on the Pacific. It is 11:45 Central, and it is 12:45 in the Far East right now. and they have to get up in a couple of hours. Yeah. Okay. For those who are listening in podcast, up on the screen right now, I have a comment from Cheetah. Cheetah said, "This, trust me, it was suicide claim by regarding Epstein by Cash and Bongino isn't going over very well." I would tend to agree. Neither is the car accident suicide of Virginia Jeffrey, a prominent Epstein accuser. Cheetah also writes in comments, for sure, FBI leaders are being applauded by FBI agents on their way out the door. Yes. But there are still a sufficient number of individuals in the DOJ and the FBI to obstruct as much as they possibly can. And yes, as Cheetah points out again in chat, for those of you listening in podcast, there are any number of ways to prosecute the auto pen regime, but the biggest question is, will they? Do we possess the collective national and DC will to do what must be done? Lost Wanderer is correct. In comment, it says, it stinks. It all stinks, and I hate it. And it's very sad that we have gotten here. And it's all, it may potentially be excused. Let me go right here and play Jesse Waters.
The big guy's back.
Mr. President, how are you feeling, sir? How are you feeling, sir?
Great. I like tonight. How you doing, Joe? Smoking Joe's keeping the hoax alive, but his team's not feeling it. They're freaking out that Biden's library isn't going to open when he's alive to see it, and may never open. Joe's own donors say they're not giving him a dime. He even
that should be the least of his worries right now.
Lowered his speaking fee, but after all these books came out, no one wants to book him.
That's a slap in the face to every other prior president. They got a library. They found donations. They were able to speak at great length and with great coin, which is how presidents embiggen their wallets after they leave.
Here's why.
It is a scandal.
Yes.
It is without question. And maybe even worse than
I may have a word or two about Tapper as we continue.
Watergate in some ways.
Right.
Because Richard Nixon was in control of his faculties when he wasn't drinking.
Worse than Watergate was a running joke during the first Trump term, but after Biden, now the joke's on them. If Biden-gate is worse than Watergate, Tapper's one of the plumbers. Jake's confessing to a crime, but won't apologize.
Do you feel that you owe the American people an apology for slightly dropping the ball with this, and not just to Lara Trump?
I feel like I owe the American people an acknowledgement that I wish I had covered the story better.
Okay, stop. Let me take this off right now. By the way, for the people in podcast, Cheetah wrote in comments, there's that law school saying, we're a society of laws, not men. It really is the other way around when it comes to this crap. And also Lost Wanderer wrote, I love Occam's razor. And when it says they're not telling the truth, it hurts. This should be something that easily told. And if it cannot, that evil reigns supreme. Let me weigh in on Jake Tapper right now. And it's not very complicated. And it should be obvious to everyone with massive obviosity. Another word that I just coined. Jake Tapper made money, made coin, made bank by lying to your face and lying to my face. He knew it. He saw it. He's not stupid, but still continued to do that because to not do it at the time would have created a wild kerfuffle and skirmish on CNN, MSNBC, and the other leftist outlets where he worked. He wasn't courageous enough to go there. Only later in retrospect was he sufficiently courageous to do so. But what I want to point out is he made coin lying to you, and now he's making coin by saying that, oh, well, you know, I'm the truth teller here. And what he's essentially trying to say, because I speak leftist, so please allow me to translate, is I'm the victim here. I was hoodwinked just as much as anybody else, but I profited like fucking crazy over it when I was on the air holding that water, and I'm profiting now because it seems like everybody is pushing my book, and I do stand to make millions depending on what it was that he got up front. And with Jake Tapper, it really is no more complicated than that at all. Democrats are still trying to wonder, how did we get here? How did we do this? They still don't get it. But the dealio is, as I hopefully will say next week, is don't be assumptive. We conservatives, Republicans, cannot afford to be assumptive at this point. There are more Democrat tricks coming. From the New York Times, even, they said Democrats are still searching for the path forward. 6 months after President Trump swept the battleground states, the Democrat Party is still sifting through the wreckage. Its standing has plunged to a startling new low, 27% approval in a recent NBC News poll, the weakest in surveys dating to 1990. After a defeat that felt like a political and a cultural rejection, which it was, communities that Democrats had come to count on for a generation or more, young people, blacks, Latinos, or as they say, Latinx, all veered toward the right in 2024, some of them very quite sharply. And unlike Mr. Trump's win in 2016, his victory last year couldn't be waved away. He's just another outlier after he won the popular vote also in the Electoral College for the first time. You're going to have to take that. They are going to have to take that into consideration. Now, this is very interesting because BZ goes back into the archives and sifts through the internet to find this crazy shit. Now, the story is that Elizabeth Warren may have been personally involved in the auto pen regime and utilizing it for her and the benefit of the Democrats. I hadn't heard that until, say, a day or so ago. But then that made me remember, because still I kind of have a brain left, half maybe. Hey, here's something very interesting that I saved from the internet, because the internet kind of is forever. And so all of this was part and parcel, a huge slab of political corruption that occurred in the United States, but one of the biggest political scandals in the history of the United States, like ever. And Elizabeth Warren smiles at this. Watch her language, watch her face as she talks to this guy, Sam Fragoso. And he actually throws questions back to her. I'm shocked that this occurred. I was going to play it 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, and I never got around to it. But now, after hearing about Elizabeth Warren, this went bing. By the way, if you want me to rewind the tape and say that again, it went bing in my brain. And so listen and watch. This is only about 54 seconds, but I'm going to have to embiggen it here. First, I got to play it, I think, and make sure that I got the volume up on this. This is classic.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
Pause. Do you see the pause? Look at her fists. I read body language. Don't you? Now, this is her attempting to stifle a laugh until she doesn't.
I said I had not seen decline.
She thinks this is funny, amusing. Look at the eyeball. That look askance indicates again she thinks this is amusing. And she's also, there's a hint of consternation in there for this guy having attempted to pin her like a bug in a wax tray in biology.
And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that.
Not when I said that. Parenthesis, parsing the fuck out of language as Democrats usually do.
The thing is,
she's like the other guy, Bennett, who won't say, oh, I will stop sucking the cock of the people that pay me money. She can't quite say it. And the hemming and the hawing.
He was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can
stop. She thinks this is funny. Now, in truth, she's caught. But this guy is not a huge guy. He's not CBS, and she will not likely see this splayed all over the internet until it really was. But her tone betrays her. Her face betrays her. Her laugh betrays her. Her pauses betray her. Because both you and I, we're humans, and for the most part, we can read humans, can't we?
Can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Do you regret?
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I speak leftist, so I'll translate. Yeah, I realized that this was bullshit, but because I have to go along with my party, I'm going to pretend that it didn't really happen. And besides, like Harry Reid, who said that he certainly lied about Mitt Romney and then laughed about it later, hey, nothing's going to happen. She may be right. She may be right. What's the chance of something like that happening? Here's what the plan was. This is from Yahoo News, and they are collected from all sorts of different places. Biden proof of life presidency plan exposed in the book, in the Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper book. Now, we've heard a lot of things about this, but I don't think many people have heard this aspect of what the plan was. A longtime aide for Joe Biden said the plan was for the former president to show proof of life every once in a while. Now, that is if he were to have been elected and Cammie Cackler wasn't running. Because this was the plan. We're going to keep him in the background. We're going to plant him in the basement like we did during the campaign. We're going to show proof of life. Oh, look, it's Joe. Hi, here I am. Set him up, prop him up, smile like Weekend at Bernie's. And then while his advisors mostly are going to run the country in a continuation of 47, according to Alex Thompson. You quote a longtime Biden aide basically admitting he shouldn't be running again. They said to you on page 85 he just had to win, and then he could disappear. He could disappear for 4 years. He'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while. His aides could pick up the slack. Who would have been running the White House in the second Biden term? The answer is the same damn people that were running things under 46. And so it's no different. Let me go back to chat here for a second. Cheetah said, for those of you in podcast listening later, you literally can't make this stuff up. Lost Wanderer was very kind, said 50% of your brain is still more than 300% of the Democrats. And Cheetah said, Pocahontas, spelling, there is one dingbat no one should ever vote for, and yet they still do. I'm sad. Ricky Robinson from KLRN says, I'm sad she's technically an Okie. She does. Nobody is buying her crap. Lost Wanderer, thank you so kindly. I'm going to have to buy you a birthday cake. Says, this is why BZ rocks. And how dare you insult me calling me human? And Cheetah, Tapper and Newscomb likely would pass a lie detector test when they're lying or denying right to somebody's face they are truly pathological and possibly descendants of the Nephilim. That deserves one of these. One day I will tell you about pimping a CVSA and pimping a lie detector because, by the way, I have done it. You can beat a lie detector. I know because I have done it. But that was the plan. We'll keep Joe Vegetable in the background and we'll just have a continuation, essentially, of these guys running everything. This is how your federal government is supposed to work. The three branches of government, the legislative, the executive, the judicial. Directly under the executive is POTUS. It doesn't say anything similar to a series of POTUSes or faux POTUSes or people who will push the POTUS background and then will jump in via the auto pen and will make the damn decisions. It doesn't say anything like that. And that is why, as I said at the beginning of the show, the people who engaged in this shadow government 46 need to go to fucking prison. And yes, it would, I readily admit, it must be for revenge, it must be for retribution, and it must be to set an example for other asswipes who would be considering this in their political future as well. Nobody elected Kamala, and yet there she was. People did elect Joe Vegetable, and there he was. Smoke and mirrors and a shadow government. This is also very interesting. And this is, again, a continuing series of indictments. Watchdog finds no evidence Biden knew of a crucial climate of various crucial climate EOs, executive orders, demands answer on who signed the auto pen. Power of the Future is calling on Congress to investigate the validity of former President Joe Biden's signatures. These are not obscure bureaucratic memos. These were foundational shifts in American energy policy, yet not once did Joe Biden speak about them publicly because these were perfect opportunities provided on a silver platter for Joe Biden to do precisely that, and it didn't occur. Those didn't occur. Read the story at your leisure. We must move on. And then this is who, this is a linkage now. This is people who are postulating who ran the auto pen.
And we have to encourage it. What the Biden administration was doing, and let's face it, it wasn't Biden. Elizabeth Warren controlled the auto pen during that administration. She, for some reason, has this pathological hatred of the crypto community. She wants to drive this community offshore. She doesn't want it happening in the United States. That's the wrong policy for the United States. We want all the innovation happening here. This is a financial system of the future. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. We want it happening here, Jesse, and I think people are thrilled that President Trump is making that possible.
This is David Sachs, who is the White House crypto czar, saying essentially that, yes, well, I believe it was Elizabeth Warren who was running the auto pen. Now, is there concrete and definitive evidence of it? No. There isn't. At least not yet. Oh, shoot. I should have done this now. And for the people, because it's now 10:05 Pacific, which means it is midnight 05 Central. And it means it's 1 a.m. 05 on the East Coast. And so I must tell everybody, because I don't have a break, but I would just like to remind everybody of this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And then this is Tim Waltz, who said, I think we need a shadow government. Well, did you get one? I kind of think so. Go.
We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. And I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening.
Well, he wanted it. He got it during 46, didn't he? During the auto pen regime. So sometimes, like Muslims, like Islam, these people will tell you to your face what they truly mean, and it's up to you to decide whether or not they really do, in fact, mean it. Let's go to comments back here. Mike Pasqua said, all they'd have to do is show one of Biden's diapers. Well, perhaps yes. Cheetah says, yep, why lie detector info can't be used in court. I will tell you a story sometime later, Cheetah, because I have done that. Comic Artist says, my late wife was the best lie detector I was ever tied to. Trust me, I do. Cheetah said, I don't think she, Elizabeth Warren, ran the auto pen. I doubt Dr. Jill would allow it. So we will see. And Ricky Robinson said, don't stomp. Ricky, I will not be stomping on your account. Not at KLRN, not anywhere. Don't stop on my account. We have missed you. And also, PSD, Cheetah. I happen to know that Cheetah is an attorney, was an attorney, may still be an attorney. He had a shingle at one time. Now, whether he's in Florida, whether he still is an attorney in Florida, I don't know. But he did live his life as an attorney at one point. They already have it. It's called mainstream media. And that would be absolutely correct. Let us continue with this walk. Here's another article that I would like to show you, and so that you, oh, shut up, allow ads. Okay. Matey, bite my wally. This is from Stop with the pop-ups. This is from Red State. How bad is Jake Tapper's book? His co-author just used the same Biden deception in order to defend their hypocrisy. The media this week has been all agog at the upcoming release of Original Sin by Jake Tapper. And Axios correspondent Alex Thompson teamed up to deliver what can only be called revisionist history. And they are leaning heavily on the case of the White House, duping all of the press. See, I told you, these people, the American media maggots, they are victims themselves. They are even more of a victim than you because they say so. Now we see evidence of Thompson resorting to the very same deception tactics to defend his book that are featured inside the tome. The two reporters are facing a slew of character accusations, from being incompetent or deceptive to being oblivious and even hypocritical. All seemingly are valid charges. One item in the release defies logic. How is it that we have quotes from various highly placed people affirming that Biden was slipping, at the same time get the talking points that Biden's inner circle managed to hide this condition? And what they're basically saying, true enough, is both of those points can't be true. Not simultaneously, not both at once. Also, this needs to be revealed as well. Another in a continuing series of reasons that those who engaged in the shadow government 46 need to have their asses sent to prison. Biden staged town hall footage. Now, this is a layup. This is a setup for Joe Biden. No outside influences, nothing bad that could somehow divert him. And yet it did. This is also from that book, Original Sin. Biden staged town hall footage was unusable. Needing video of then President Biden speaking sharply and fluidly in a freewheeling setting, his campaign staged a closed to the press. Well, they needed it. They needed Biden looking Bidenish and presidential and clenched fist and being firm and in control. Infirm and not in control. His campaign staged a closed to the press town hall with a friendly audience in April 2024. That is to say, people that were already on his side and willing to let him say or do anything because they were with him. The resulting footage was unusable. The episode highlights the lengths that Biden's campaign went to cover for his deficiencies as an 81-year-old re-election candidate and how difficult he made it to carry out the basic blocking and tackling, the foundations of a modern campaign. They gave everything to him on a platter, and he couldn't carry through. Additionally, let me put this up. From New York Post. Here are the Politburo members, stop this, who are really running the Biden White House, according to Original Sin authors. A small, tight-knit group in Biden's inner circle was running the White House like a Politburo, and they were the ultimate decision makers as Biden's health and cognitive functions continued to decline. The group, dubbed the Politburo, included a cadre of seasoned political veterans, including Mike Donilon. Hey, the people I already mentioned, right? Steve Ricchetti and Bruce Reed, but also family members such as the First Lady, Jill Biden, and the president's son's Hunter. Those authors claim, let me go back and refresh our memory of these people. Mike Donilon, Steve Ricchetti, Bruce Reed, Ron Klain, Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, Ron Klain, former chief of staff as well. So this is a continuing series. And the reason I do these shows is so that, and again, the show links will all be up for your reference now and forever. I do these shows to immure for myself if I wish to do some research and for whatever reason I haven't bookmarked the applicable story or the video, I can go back to these videos for reference. I immure this in my shows so I and others, if you wish, can remember as well. They're all there. It's all available. And of course, this as well. I think I'm going to end up with a video, which leaves one person as yet unnamed. Jill Biden aide had enormous power. DNC Vice Chair's bombshell admission on 2024 race. Now, this is the video with David Hogg. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Sackhead Sean had, in fact, played this video last night. But because I'm not to be outdone by Sackhead Sean, I need to play it too, mister. Because it's worth listening to. And it's worth remembering. And it's worth the research necessary to find it, and it's worth the archiving of this so that it can be found when required later. So this is an undercover meeting with DNC leader, who knows how long he's going to be, DNC, I think he's co-leader, David Hogg. And he says who really ran the White House here. And he said this guy actually had an enormous amount of power, and he was scary. It was scary, very scary. Well, maybe he was scary. Take it away.
Yes,
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Off the record, of course. Foundational question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, well, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately.
Duh.
The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary. What was his name? Anthony Bernal.
Anthony Bernal.
I've never seen him.
Bernal.
Exactly. What do you mean? He's like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had in the White
House. So again, these are people, like I can't think of the guy with no nose in He Who Shall Not Be Named in the Harry Potter movie. I can't think of that guy's name, but apparently Anthony Bernal is He Who Shall Not Be Named. And sadly was named, and apparently somebody's going to, or a series of somebody's are going to be going to hell for having named him. Maybe me too, for having revealed it. And then I believe this is going to be the final for tonight, the final article. Ed Martin identifies gatekeepers involving the Biden auto pen scandal. Says DOJ pardon attorney Ed Martin discussed Biden's growing auto pen scandal this week with journalist Mark Halperin on a podcast. And he said that he wrote to the Biden family and others, and a senior Democrat whistleblower came forward with shocking allegations. And already, Ed Martin says, a couple of people have lawyered up. Well, this should be no shock. 60 people watching live. Thank you ever so kindly. I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these three people that controlled access, and they were making money off of it. Ed Martin told Mark Halperin. I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is, I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process. And that's what we were doing. And isn't it weird? I'm just going to stop here. And again, you can read it at your leisure later on from bloviatingzeppelin.net or the SHR Media Rumble channel. All the show links will be there. It's interesting. I'm looking over here. See, I look at the comments and the number of people watching right here, and I'm getting comments from YouTube, and then I look over here at Rumble, and I know I'm winning when I get leftist pieces of fucking shit commenting in Rumble, which I will therefore delete later. And to all those guys, yeah, fuck off. You don't scare me. I've been shot at, cut, stabbed, spit on by professionals. You guys are not professionals. Well, let me say this. In wrapping the show up tonight, somebody's got to go to jail. Somebody's got to go to prison. Who will it be? Or is it even to the point where no one will consider this? BZ, how insane are you? If they're not going to reveal Epstein, and I have some thoughts about Epstein, because I don't think they found all the victims yet. I think there are many victims yet to be found, discovered, and revealed. Oh, okay. Let's go back to chat, because chat continues to amuse me. Do you amuse me? What's that from? Casino? Cheetah, what do you say to a biker in a necktie? A good start. And Cheetah says, what do you call 50 lawyers chained together at the bottom of the ocean? That is a good start. Canada Heavy all says, I know a few jokes. I do too, and they're all in politics. That's kind of difficult to suss out. Anyway, the 60 people that are watching live right now and have stuck with me for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Thanks to you all. Thanks to everyone who has been listening live right now. I will be back next Tuesday. My vacazione to Sasquatch Central and Dr. Jeff Meldrum is over. My show will be on next Tuesday and Thursday. Not exactly sure what the topics are going to be. And the reasons for that is I try to prognosticate in the future what my guests are going to be and what topics I'm going to cover. But today, holy mother of God, you can't predict because so much changes on, we're not even talking month to month basis. It's week to week. It's day to day. And sometimes it's hour to hour. Final, Cheetah, you get the last comment. Good lawyers are rare. Some of the best people I know and lousy ones, like 90% of them, are the worst people I know. Wow. That's a pretty amazing comment. And with that, and so I say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, also on KLRN, and where all sorts of good podcasts can be found, and tons of bulbous podcast locales. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure, and Electro Voice microphones, the manufacturers of my board and mixer, Arrakis, and also by Pratt & Whitney Dependable Engines producing Thrust. You can trust. Also, tiaras. You too can have one of these. Are by My Little Pony. And also thanks to my very personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. You can take that to bank, Mr. and Mistress. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, being in chat, listening live, listening later in podcast. See you next Tuesday night, everybody, everywhere. Have a great weekend. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Night, Mama. Night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.